We currently have 7 NHL teams that do not have a team captain. So today we're going to be taking a look at these 7 franchises and giving my thoughts and predictions on who will be the next NHL captain for these 7 teams. We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, today we're looking at future NHL captains, many of which could be named as early as the coming NHL season. We're only a few weeks away from training camp to start the 2021-22 NHL season, and I do think it's a real good possibility that at least a few of these teams are going to be naming a captain here, if not by the time training camp starts and by the time the NHL regular season starts in October. So we do this video pretty much every year. We've had vacancies and captains around the NHL for quite some time. I mean, there are a lot of teams have been kind of taking a different approach in more recent years to putting the C on a jersey. They've been taking their time and making sure it's the right player, going to be with the franchise for an extended time usually. They have a little bit more stringent criteria they look through than just slapping on the C on, and whoever's been there the longest or something like that. Obviously, in years past, there used to be a lot quicker to make those decisions. Now it seems to be much longer and well thought out. So first up, we're going to take a look at each of these teams. I'll give you my thoughts on who the next captain will be, and we'll discuss when that is likely going to take place. First up, we have the Ottawa Senators, one of the longest teams that have been without a captain for quite some time, really ever since they traded away captain Erik Karlsson. That trade is now 3 years old, and we're obviously at a point now where we know the full outcome of the trade. All the draft picks have been used. They've gotten quite a haul in this trade. I mean, in the beginning, things looked a little sketchy for Ottawa, but they've done quite well for all the pieces that what they've turned out to be. They end up getting Josh Norris, they get Timmy Stützle, they get several draft picks that are working out to be some solid prospects as well. Chris Tierney's still in the mix. They did really well considering what things looked like at the time. But obviously, like I said, it's a long time coming, but we're at a point now where their rebuild is over, according to Pierre Dorion. They're ready to take these prospects up to the next level, mix in a few veterans, and make them more competitive and start challenging for playoffs, and they hope in the next 3 to 5 years to contend for a Stanley Cup. That's their long-term vision and their long-term goal. Out of everybody on this roster here today, to me, there's one guy that sticks out head and shoulders above the rest as the future leader of this team. He's really the current leader, but the future guy to wear the C in his jersey, and it's going to come in the near future, in my opinion, if he signs a long-term deal, which is what all Sens fans are hoping for, and that's Brady Tkachuk. Brady is a guy who appears to be the on-ice leader for this group. I know Thomas Chabot also is in the conversation. He would certainly be my second choice, but to me, Brady's a guy that just leads by example on the ice, drags the team into the fight with them. It's just built into him in his DNA. Obviously, his dad was a great leader on the ice for a long time. His brother is showing leadership qualities as well. It's just what they're instilled with and just part of their DNA, that they just play hard every shift. They lead by example on and off the ice. And to me, it just makes a lot of sense for Ottawa to sign him to as long a term deal as they can possibly agree to right now and slap the C on his jersey. Like I said, last year to me, he was kind of the unofficial captain. It's time to make that official, sign him long term, and get the C on his jersey like he's so well deserved. Now, another team that we're going to take a look at next is another Canadian team that found themselves without a captain, but not really by choice, and that's the Calgary Flames, who lost captain Mark Giordano to the Seattle Kraken in this year's 2021 NHL expansion draft. Because of the dynamics of what you can protect and not protect in the draft, they had no choice but to leave a veteran guy like Giordano exposed, or they would have been a longer-term risk to lose a younger defenseman that was going to be, probably equally as important down the road. They ended up protecting Hanifin, Rasmus Anderson, as well as the newly signed Chris Tanev. And Giordano, who's got 1 year left on his contract and is near the end of his career, was exposed, and he is now with Seattle. So Calgary is now thinking about who might their next captain be. Now, I'm not 100% convinced that Calgary will name a captain this year. I think it's possible they might wait a year to do that, but at the same time, you just never know. I mean, we get through training camp. Obviously, Daryl Sutter's the head coach there now. he may decide that he knows who it's going to be and who he wants to be in that role, and they may go ahead and do that anyways. But to me, the next leader is Brady's brother, Matthew. And I think the reason that they might wait a year to do it is that he is not too far near the end of his bridge contract that he signed with the Flames. They can start talking about a long-term deal here to hopefully keep him in the mix and make him the captain and the leader of that franchise. And we can see these two brothers lead their respective Canadian teams and do battle many nights throughout the NHL season. I mean, like his brother Brady, Matthew is just a born leader, a guy who, to me, needs to get back to playing the way that he did earlier in his career, where he was more of a pest out there, driving people crazy. I know at one point earlier last year, it seemed like he kind of got away from that, and his numbers certainly dipped from it because he just didn't seem to be playing with as much passion and as much, drive and commitment that we've seen from him in the past. But to me, he is the leader of that team. And like I said, the whole family needs to be, leaders. They're just born to do it. And Matthew, along with Brady, I do think will be wearing a C for their respective teams for a long, long time. Now, another team that we saw vacate the captaincy this year by trading them away was the Arizona Coyotes, who've traded away a lot of players, including Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who has been the captain since he signed his long-term deal a few years back. Now, Ekman-Larsson goes to Vancouver, and the Coyotes are now in a situation where they don't have a captain. Now, this is another team I personally do not think they're going to rush into making this decision, but I do think they already know who that player is going to be. It might come as early as this season, but I won't be shocked if they wait a little bit either, just to kind of see how things play out. But the leader of the Coyotes moving forward, and hopefully for a long time, will be defenseman Jakob Chychrun. I have no doubt that he is the right guy for the job. He's 23 years old, certainly had a major breakthrough last year, and should continue that this year as well. Chychrun's a player that can play strong defense, provide you some good offense, and really be just a really overall complete player and be a guy that leads by example and is hard to play against. They're going to have a lot of young guys obviously in this team as all these draft picks are accumulating become players, and Chychrun can lead by example like longtime captain Shane Doan did. I mean, Doan is a guy that's now working again with the organization. He knows how important it is to have that leadership and to have the C on a jersey on a team. And to me, I'm not sure how long they'll wait, but Jakob Chychrun to me is no doubt the absolute right choice for Arizona to be their next captain. Now, before we jump into the next part of the video, look at the remaining teams, I do need to pause for a moment and acknowledge our channel sponsor, Manscaped. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Manscaped. Of course, with Manscaped, we have a special offer here for all Top Shelf Hockey viewers where you can get 20% off and free shipping on all orders at manscaped.com. Now, of course, Manscaped just launched a brand new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is a fantastic product. They've taken the level up here, even again with the skin-safe replaceable blades. It's waterproof, it's wireless charging, has a travel lock on it, as well as a nice light so you don't miss what you're doing. So certainly a terrific product. Now, many people associate Manscaped with their trimmers, which is certainly kind of their top product, but they do have a lot of other great options as well, including what they call the Weed Whacker, which is another trimmer for your ears and nose. And they have a variety of deodorants and sprays as well, which also keep you fresh and are terrific as well. So certainly Manscaped has a lot to offer, and we certainly highly recommend all of their products. So check out manscaped.com and use promo code TSH for 20% off and free shipping. So thanks very much for watching that promotional content. I do want to take a quick moment and shout out and thank all of our membership holders as well. Your support is greatly appreciated, as well as everybody who's bought a lot of the merchandise lately, like these hoodies. The support has been phenomenal. And again, I just want to thank you very much for everything that you've done to help this channel become successful. Now, moving on to the New York Rangers. The Rangers are another team that's been without their captain for quite some time, for about that 3-year span as well, since Ryan McDonagh was traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Rangers, to me, I think are a team that I would expect to name a captain this year. Listen to the comments from GM Chris Drury. Recently, it sounds like they want to, maybe take a little bit more time to feel out who that right guy is. I don't know if they completely have that decision made as of yet, but I think they're kind of seem like they're hoping that as training camp progresses and the season gets ready to start, that becomes apparent and obvious so they can make that decision. Now, again, I think it's really boiled down to two guys. I think we're looking at either Chris Kreider or Jacob Trouba. Both guys have long-term deals. They both have a fair bit of NHL experience. They've both been alternate captains in the past. And to me, they're probably the leading contenders to get this role. To me, I would probably give it to Chris Kreider. I'm not really convinced that Jacob Trouba's contract and his on-ice play, even though he might be a decent leader on off the ice or in the room, I'm not really convinced that he's the right guy for the C. Another guy who should be considered for this as well is Mika Zibanejad. The only way Zibanejad gets the C, though, is if a long-term extension is worked out. Right now, he's entering the final year of his contract. They are having discussions about an extension. The Rangers have also been linked to Jack Eichel, too, so there's a lot of uncertainty over who's going to be their top center or top two centers moving forward. So there could be some change there, which is why I thought maybe Zibanejad may not be the guy. If he gets an extension and signs for another 7 or 8 years, Zibanejad gets the captaincy. If not, then I think they go to Chris Kreider, who's already under contract for a longer term. And obviously, like I said, if they don't sign Zibanejad to an extension, that's likely going to mean that they trade it for a guy like Eichel, which would completely change the dynamic of this team. And I don't necessarily see him coming in and being named captain right away either. So to me, that makes the most sense. So I'm leaning towards Chris Kreider, unless Zibanejad is extended, at which point I give him the C. Next up, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, the Blue Jackets' last captain was Nick Foligno, of course, who was traded this past season at the deadline to the Toronto Maple Leafs and have not returned. So they're looking to have a fresh start. They may not rush to name a captain here. Obviously, they haven't been without one for all that long. They're also in a situation where they've gone through a lot of change, a lot of turnover, and they do have a lot of younger players on this team. But to me, the guy that makes the most sense is the guy they just signed a mega long-term extension with, and that is defenseman Zach Werenski. Now, Werenski, to me, fits the bill. He's a great player. He leads on the ice by example. A good, solid defenseman. Obviously has a long-term extension, making lots of money. High-profile guy. Can be the face of the franchise, I think, for this team. However, I don't necessarily think that the Jackets are going to rush to slap the C in his jersey. They might, but right now, another option they could go with as a short-term solution would be like Boone Jenner, for example. Boone Jenner is also a guy been with the team for a long time, works hard, plays center. There's a lot of the little things, kills penalty, blocks shots, and sometimes, a lot of teams value that as well for their on-ice leadership. Possibly could see a scenario where they might give it to Jenner short-term and then go over to Werenski afterwards, or they may go with the younger Werenski right now where he's got the long-term contract and make him the captain who should hold that role for many years to come. And of course, that takes us to our brand new franchise, the Seattle Kraken. Of course, don't have a captain. They've never had a captain. They're brand new to the league. And to me, out of all the players they have on this roster right now, the guy that makes the most sense is former Flames captain Mark Giordano. I think that's when they selected him. That's what they had in mind. He could be a leader for this group right off the bat. Obviously, they're going to be a team that's going to rely heavily on goaltending and defense. The way they draft it, they don't have a lot of offense. At least it doesn't appear that way right now. So I think they're going to be trying to win a lot of defensive battles. Like I said, like 2-1, 3-2, where they rely heavily on their strong team defensive play. Giordano can be a big part of that. Like I said, he's got a lot of experience wearing the C in Calgary. And just seems to be a guy that's just naturally born to lead. So out of all the guys on the roster in Seattle, it makes the most sense to go to Mark Giordano. Now, of course, they may not name a captain immediately, and he's only under contract for 1 year. He may extend and stay with them a little bit longer. That's difficult to say at this point. Like, for example, the most recent expansion team in Vegas, they waited a few years to name a captain, and of course they now have Mark Stone, who's only been the captain there just for the one past years. I mean, they waited 3 full years to go down that road. Will Seattle do that, or will they do something a little bit more sooner? I think, to me, in order to kind of get the fans hyped, I think it'd be important to name that captain if that player is obvious right away. And to me, they have that guy, whereas Vegas maybe didn't have that obvious choice right off the hop, and it made sense for them to wait. But I see Seattle and Vegas doing things very differently, so I would not be shocked if we have a Kraken captain at the beginning of the season. Now, the 7th team is technically the Montreal Canadiens, and I suppose they do technically have a captain in Shea Weber, but he's not expected to play this year, and there's a really good chance he may never play again. Now, we already have confirmation from Marc Bergevin that they will not be naming a new captain this year. Obviously, I do not expect or suspect they will even consider doing that until we know 100% certain that Weber will not be coming back. Obviously, if there's a chance, they're not going to give that captaincy away to another player. Obviously, that's, out of respect to him and everything he's done for the franchise. But like what we know is that the odds are certainly against Weber playing anymore. So to me, Montreal has the ideal candidate waiting in the wings. There's only one guy to me that absolutely sticks out as being the ultimate guy who can be the captain and replace that, and that's Brendan Gallagher. He's basically the heart and soul of the franchise, goes hard to the net, does all the little things well. He's gritty, he scores goals, plays with a lot of heart, a lot of passion, and to me, and of everybody on that roster, they've had a lot of turnover too in the last couple of years. To me, Gallagher, he signed long-term as well, which seems to be important, and it makes a ton of sense with how he plays to be the next captain of the Montreal Canadiens. When that will be, though, it's difficult to say. I'm going to say it's going to be at least one more year. But like I said, if we get confirmation sometime during this year, or maybe it's next offseason, I don't know when it comes, that Shea Weber either returns or he doesn't, and we find out that he's not playing anymore, then I think at that point, they'll hand the reins over to new captain Brendan Gallagher. So let me know your thoughts on all these teams and who would you select to be their next future NHL captain of these franchises. We can discuss further down in the comments. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We will keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.